Switzerland has expressed its readiness to host a high-level meeting between US President-elect Donald Trump and Russian dictator Putin. Well, ain't that sweet? North Korean soldiers captured by Ukrainian armed forces. Let us try to find out what is known so far. And a cherry on the top, a Blitz interview, senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis, the chairman of Center Studies and Research on Political Decisions, Nicolas is with us tonight in this very studio. Can you believe it? Good afternoon. My name is Henry Keane, and we are UATV English-speaking, trying to, Ukrainian state media in constant persuasion to deliver hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world, for you, directly from Ukraine, just as usual. Switzerland has expressed its readiness to host a very high-level meeting between US President-elect Donald Trump and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Nicolas, Bideau, head of communications of the Swiss Foreign Ministry, told Swiss newspaper Le Temps. According to the publication, Bideau referenced the Global Peace Summit held in Switzerland in June, saying that following the summit, Ukraine, Russia and the United States have been regularly informed of Switzerland's willingness to facilitate diplomatic initiatives. Following the Bergenstock summit, Ukraine, Russia and the United States, he said, were regularly informed of our willingness to support diplomatic efforts to find peace, Bideau says, as quotes Le Temps publication. Bideau's address comes as the Kremlin signaled willingness to meet Trump to hammer out a deal on ending Russia's criminal war against Ukraine. No concrete plans on date have been set yet, though Moscow said any face-to-face meeting would occur only after Trump's inauguration on January 20th. Earlier this week, Trump told reporters that arrangements for a meeting with Putin are already underway. Trump also said that specific peace proposals are still being worked out, a pitch that leaked, intentionally or not, from Trump's team, freezing the front lines, it is, postponing Ukraine's NATO accession by 20 years and deploying European peacekeepers on the ground, and what is known that already Russia rejected that proposal. But wait, what about the arrest warrant? Remember that the International Criminal Court issued for Putin in March 2023 for that forced deportations of Ukrainian children to Russia? Or maybe that is exactly Trump's plan, to lure Putin to Switzerland and then just arrest him there. I'd love to watch that. I'm sure the show will get more views online than Usyk Fury boxing fight. Otherwise, if Putin's arrest is not the plan, what do we do with the fact that Russia has forcibly deported over 19,500 Ukrainian children since the start of the full-scale war, and only less than 400 have been brought back to Ukraine? Well, I'm sorry, Switzerland, but as a signatory to the Rome Statute, you're legally required to arrest Putin. However, I understand. All is good. It's Switzerland, after all. You land where you can pre-order a quantity of holes in your cheese, so why for the law not to have just one? According to Le Temps, Bideau said the Federal Council has the authority to grant exceptions in situations involving peace negotiations. I'm sure Putin glad, and he will travel to Switzerland again, while the rest of Russia is grappling with soaring inflation, for example, caused by record military spending, and its casualties are believed to range between 600 and 800,000 people dead and wounded, exceeding all of Moscow's post-World War II wars combined. But that is okay for Putin. He knows what you in the West do not know. Russians, long used to suffering and dying for their Tsar's proclaimed cause, or even without him. 2 wounded North Korean soldiers have been captured as prisoners of war by Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk Oblast, President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Saturday. The 2 men are now in the custody of the Security Service of Ukraine in Kiev. The president said he is grateful to Ukrainian paratroopers and soldiers from the Special Operation Forces for capturing the North Koreans, as this was not an easy task. And here is why. Russians simply execute wounded North Koreans to erase any evidence of North Korea's involvement in the war against Ukraine. The Ukrainian intelligence service said in a statement that the prisoners were captured on 9th January and immediately after were provided with all the necessary medical care as stipulated by the Geneva Convention and taken to Kiev. They are being held in appropriate conditions that meet the requirements of international law, intelligence services statement reads. President Zelensky also posted 4 photographs alongside his statement. 2 show wounded men. One of the photos showed a red Russian military card. The intelligence service confirms when the prisoners were captured, one of the soldiers had that Russian military ID card issued in the name of another person with registration in the Tuva Republic, Russia. The other had no documents at all. The soldier with the ID card told security personnel that he had been issued the document in Russia during the autumn of 2024. The intelligence service reported that he said he was born in 2005 and had been serving North Korea as a rifleman since 2021. He also said some of North Korea's combat units had only 1 week interoperability training, and he was sure he was going for more training when shortly after he found himself on the front lines in Ukraine. The second prisoner is reported to have given some of his answers in writing because he had an injured jaw. The Ukrainian intelligence service said he was born in 1999 and had been serving North Korea as a scout sniper since 2016. Russia, of course, has been silent at the moment about the whole thing. Why? I mean, why, if it is such a mighty superpower as Russia does its best worst to look like, then why to use North Korea's cannon fodder? So not to lose their own folk on the battlefield? Well, that would be wise if only Russia ever cared for its people. But anyway, if that is done not out of weakness, but so to spare Russian lives, why hiding it?
Russians are trying to hide the fact that these are soldiers from North Korea by giving them documents claiming they are from Tuva or other territories under Moscow's control. However, these people are actually Koreans. They are from North Korea. Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine.
But it's nothing new. Since 2014, Russian forces operating in Ukraine, despite Kremlin denials, were sent without any identifying markings on the uniforms. Last year, when dictator Putin was asked about Russia using North Korean troops in its war in Ukraine, he did not deny it. He said it was Russia's, I quote, sovereign decision. Well, that sovereign decision of Putin, because as we all know, Putin has no doubt he is Russia, made it clear to also America, the White House, that North Korean forces were experiencing mass casualties. The Security Service of Ukraine said it is currently conducting the necessary investigative measures to establish all the circumstances of the DPRK military's participation in Russia's war against Ukraine. But one thing is clear: dictatorships form alliances way faster than democracies do. As while democracies try to look good, dictators just go for cannon fodder and meet assaults, never even caring about casualties, as these are no casualties for them. It's expendables. Tonight we have a guest who wears many hats, senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis and chairman of the Center for Studies in Research and Political Decisions. Nicolas is with us tonight with Blade's interview. Hello, Mr. Tenzer. Hello.
Hello. Sorry. I'm sorry. May I have the sound a little bit louder? I don't hear very well.
All right. Is when I'm speaking like that, do you hear me now?
It's better now. It's better now.
Okay.
Okay, it's better now. A little, but even a little bit louder too. But before it was very, very low.
Oh, this is because I'm far away. I'm in Ukraine. This is why.
Oh, okay. I know. Okay, wonderful.
Right.
I will be there again soon.
Okay, so I can't wait to ask the first question. Well, this is actually
okay. Thank you.
The question to myself: North Korean soldiers. Why Russia is using them after all? You think? I mean, why? If Russia is so powerful as it says, why to use it? And then, if not so powerful, if this is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of whatever it is the sign of, why to hide it?
Well, I think there are many, many different kind of answers. First of all, I think that Russia is not that strong. I think that's a kind of illusion. And in fact, it was something that was certainly very misleading, at the very beginning of the war. Everything was thinking that it was a very powerful country that had the second army in the world. And in fact, it's not true. And in fact, they suffered a lot of losses, during the old war that they launched against Ukraine. Probably 800,000 soldiers either died or were very severely mutilated, and they need other troops just to help. I mean, their troops who are no more able to fight, and certainly they need also soldiers that they could very easily sacrifice, because there is at least the beginning of a dissatisfaction mounting, inside Russia about the losses of their own children. There are no revolutions. There will be certainly no revolution at all, but still I think that you have this dissatisfaction of people. So it's easier for Russia certainly to use the North Korean soldiers. There is another factor, I think, which is important, but from the North Korean side, which is that North Korea certainly is not a major power, but in helping Russia in invading a European country, it shows that it is a kind of world player. And it's a kind of win-win solution for Putin and Kim Jong-un, which, of course, is very detrimental to Ukraine, as we know.
All right, well, there are a whole bunch of questions that I would like to discuss in this regard, but let us slide to other question that has no connection with North Korea. Well, I hope so. Trump is power obsessed, as Putin actually is, but Trump needs to end this war, as he said he will, to show his strength. So, as a master in political decisions, sir, can you please educate me? Putin-Trump meeting in Switzerland.
Well, first of all,
yeah, but pardon me say the ICC travel ban is lifted, and it happens. Does the very fact of it mean that by the moment they meet, Trump and Putin, all has been already decided, and the meeting itself is more a formality, like some sort of negotiations has already passed and the decision has been done before the meeting? It simply cannot result with nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are different points, in your very important questions. I mean, the first point is, as you mentioned, that Putin is basically a fugitive, which was wanted by 125 policies around the world. And you had a recommendation that was issued by the UN a long time ago that all the democratic head of state and government should refrain to have any contact with someone who is indicted for war crimes by the International Criminal Court. And for Putin, I think, of course, it's a kind of godsend because it's a kind of rehabilitation. He is basically a pariah. He should be a pariah because of the immensity of war crimes, crimes against humanity, crime of genocide, and crime of aggression, all four categories that he has committed since 25 years, starting in Chechnya, then in Georgia, then in Syria, then in Ukraine, but also in Africa, etc. So I think that's a very bad thing. The second thing is, and I said sometimes to my president, and I said to many other head of state of government or ministers, I wrote pieces on that, I think we must not talk about negotiations. I think basically negotiation with Russia is something that we cannot envision because, I mean, the questions of the so-called territorial claims by Russia, we must not accept this kind of things. To accept, to surrender, and to give to Putin territories is basically a full breakdown of the international law. And for these principles, I think that's also a kind of win for Putin, as basically aggression is paying off. We could say, well, basically he aggressed Ukraine since 2014, and finally he can keep part of the territories. And I think it shows that's basically the basic human rights and the international law. It's a kind of sheet of paper, nothing else, that has absolutely no value. And there is another point, I think, which is very dangerous from my point of view, is that we perfectly know that in all the occupied territories by Russia, you have each and every day huge violations of basic human rights. You have rapes, you have tortures, you have forced disappearances, you have deportation of children, which is a crime of genocide according to the conventions of the prevention and repression of the crime of genocide of December 9th, 1948. You have all those elements. And I think that to accept that Ukraine gives some territories to Russia is basically giving Putin a kind of license to kill. I think that's why, for these very reasons, I am not only skeptical, but in a way very dissatisfied with this meeting between the two men. And last thing I think is that, I mean, you don't have only two partners in this war. You don't have, I mean, only Russia and the US. First, you have, first of all, the Ukrainians. And I think it's not acceptable that the Ukrainians are not part in this meeting. At least, I mean, I'm not saying that Zelensky has to meet with Putin. I think it could be impossible for him to meet with Putin. But on the other hand, I mean, to have separate negotiations between the US and Russia, I mean, it's something which is a kind of disgrace. And the other partners that we have to take into account is basically the Europeans, because this war happens in European soil. Even if Ukraine is not yet a member of the EU, it is a candidate country. The negotiations for the membership of Ukraine are started, and it's basically the security of Europe is at stake. It's not, of course, it's part also the security of the US, but it's basically, and first of all, the security of Europe. So I think it's very important that all the European leaders very clearly state that there could be no negotiation or even no talks without Ukraine and no talks without Europe. And from this point of view, we have certainly to resist Trump's attempt to break a deal separately. And if this meeting resembles, the meeting of 2018 of Helsinki, you remember, where Trump met with Putin, also without his own advisors, kind of between two persons meeting without people trying also to make Trump understand what is at stake, without witnesses or note takers, but note takers are also witnesses. I think it could be very dangerous.
Well, absolutely. I can't agree more. I'm absolutely on your side. I can see your arguments. I find them very, very real. And but let's look, I mean, a little bit back over the shoulder. What about the Europe's security in the World War I, World War II? Nothing really. No one believed that security is at stake until the war broke out. So maybe, hopefully, this time we can cross this threshold in some other way. But sure, Ukraine should be part of any negotiations that somehow involve Ukraine. That much is clear. But everyone I know here in Ukraine say whatever is the ceasefire terms, say there will be ceasefire terms. But we Ukrainians should be getting ready to another invasion, no matter what, another war, another attack from Russia. Do you agree that such future assault, or if not imminent, then at least it is worth to be getting ready to?
Absolutely. I think you are perfectly right. I think there are also 2 points. First of all, coming back just a moment to Trump, I mean, as Trump is the strong man that he pretends to be, he has to understand that he has certainly to provide more military aid to Ukraine than President Biden did. Basically, Biden was in a kind of a middle way positions, not providing Ukraine enough weapons, or enough weapons not to be, of course, fully destroyed by Russia, but not enough for Ukraine to reconquer, I mean, its lost territories. And I think if Trump is really a strong man, he could make understand to Putin, either you withdraw your troops, or I will certainly step in. in my assistance, military assistance to Ukraine. That's the first point. The second point is, and you're perfectly right, that if there is any kind of negotiations that ends to a kind of ceasefire or end of the war, basically it doesn't mean peace, because Putin's army is fully exhausted. But if you have a kind of ceasefire after 3 years or 4 years, with also the assistance of North Korea, China, you will have a better Russian army, even more dangerous.
Well,
And then certainly this army will try again, not only to invade Ukraine, but certainly also to attack some EU states,
Well, there we go.
probably the
Right.
Baltic states or Finland, I don't know. But certainly it will be more war in Europe. And I mean, it will give basically the means not only for Putin to save his face, but also to save his might, his military might. And I mean, that could be very dangerous for Europe. And the third point is that if we have that, I mean, all the idea of deterrence, I mean, the credibility of deterrence in itself will be certainly affected, because if Europe and the US show any kind of weakness or willingness for a kind of appeasement, it will be a very good signal to Russia that it could then attack another European country. Let's imagine just a scenario, very quick scenario. If you have, I mean, basically the Russian army attacking in 3 years from now, let's say Tallinn, what will be the resolve of the US to send troops there to protect Estonia? And you have a question mark. And the problem is that we have an answer to this question mark. Probably the US won't go. And I think it will be a very bad signal. But it will be a very bad signal also to Iran, to North Korea, and to China.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So
I mean,
because China then will have a kind of free hand also to attack Taiwan.
well, being born and raised in Latvia, I can read you very well. We've been under Soviet Union and no more, we say. But totalitarian regimes and dictatorships tend to form alliances way faster than democracies do. We all understand that. And you say, if Europe will show weakness, I'm absolutely sure, unfortunately, that Europe will show what Putin will take as a weakness. Because
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree. I mean, it will be a sign of weakness, but already we demonstrated, I mean, this signs of
Many
weakness since a very long time.
Absolutely.
You remember, I am warning, in France about the Russian threat since 20 years. I remember it was exactly 19 years. It was the first time I launched a red alert was in 2005. I spent that time 10 days in Moscow. I met with people, etc. And I understood that basically already at that time that Russia was willing to revise and to destroy the international order. Then came, of course, Georgia, 2008. Then came, of course, Ukraine. Then came, of course, the troops, sent, in Syria to help, I mean, the genocidal regime of Assad. You had, I mean, all the events that we perfectly know. And even at that time, you had most of the European leaders, including in France or in Germany, etc., saying, well, we have to relaunch, I mean, discussion with Russia. You had the reset in the US in 2009, and you had, I mean, Macron's plan at that time. Finally, he understood. But at that time, you had the plan to build a new architecture of security and trust, precisely, with Russia. And that was a kind of illusion, and it reinforced, in fact, Russia. And during this time, it was an opportunity for Putin to rearm. And you see, if we had basically dissuaded or deterred Russia in 2008, in Georgia, we would have saved a great deal of human rights, certainly more than 200 or 300 of thousands of human lives, and we will have enhanced, I mean, the security of all Europe.
yes, if I agree with you, but my point is that nobody believes in the fire until it burns your bottom to say it, to put it in a mild way, to burn your house. If we only, Russia understands that, and this is why it only talks about the war with NATO, but actually not touching any NATO borders. But if Putin can seal the deal with Trump or with Europe, with weak Europe and Trump that is trying to look powerful, then it could be a signal for all the dictatorship exactly to form the alliance and to happen what always happens with dictatorship. New war, World War III. I believe it is already going on. But you know what? I would love to have another interview with you on that, specifically on that theme, and we can then talk for 30, 40 minutes and discuss that in details if we can. But now we're short on time, and I'm thanking you for your expertise and for this moment and for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It will
Thank
be
you.
my pleasure too to have these long discussions, and thank you for
Absolutely, we need to
receiving me.
do that. We need to do that at some point in time.
Okay,
Thank
it will
you
be
so
my
very much.
pleasure.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, and my last book will be very soon translated into Ukrainian, so you will have it.
Great. Finally. Can't wait to. Thank you. Goodbye.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that was it for tonight and for this week. Thank you so very much for your precious time and effort with us. My name is Henry Keane, and we are UATV English, an English-speaking Ukrainian state media doing our very best to deliver hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. So please, in turn, like, share, and let us know how are we doing. Comment. Your voice matters as it helps Ukrainian voice to be heard globally. So stay safe and tune for more tomorrow. See ya.